As a kid born in the year 2000, there's one franchise that is near and dear to me. Godzilla. Aside from that, there's Transformers, and I think for many people of my generation, we grew up watching the Bayformers, and 8-year-old me ate all that up, which opened the floodgates to the rest of the franchise. I started buying all of the toys, I watched Transformers animated on Cartoon Network, and when that was over, I jumped to Transformers Prime. I even played the 2007 movie tie-in game. Anybody remember that game? Anyone? Please tell me you know what game I'm talking about. But the point is, I love Transformers. Loved. In past tense. Because recently, if I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really that interested in the franchise as I used to be. You can trace back when my feelings for the series dwindled to around 2017. I wonder what came out that year.
You wretched human!
When Bumblebee was released, and I actually quite liked Bumblebee, the one scene that stood out the most, and I think everyone can agree with me on this, was the beginning of the movie where we see the war on Cybertron. We see our fan favorite characters all in their Generation 1 style design, fighting it out. No humans inside. Just pure Transformer on Transformer action. And I thought to myself, why haven't they done this yet? Sure, the closest we got was probably the 1986 movie. Geez, that was ages ago. I wasn't even born yet. But even that still has human characters in it, and nothing wrong with that. But they weren't the stars. The Transformers were. So when Transformers 1 was announced, I was like, hell yeah, we're so back. And then they announced who's voicing Optimus and Megatron, and I was like, it's Jover. A lot of mixed opinions here, and I think some people felt the same way too. It would have been cool to get Peter Cullen and Frank Welker back. Yeah, duh. But given this was a prequel and all, and I was like, okay, sure, whatever, cool. So I kept an open mind. And now that I've actually seen the movie, I can confidently say, hell yeah, we're so back. Transformers 1 is directed by Josh Cooley, who used to work for Pixar. He helped wrote the screenplay for Inside Out and directed Toy Story 4, so needless to say, the guy knows a thing or two about animated movies. And it definitely shows here. I think this movie was really well directed. There are some incredible shots, like genuinely beautiful shots of Cybertron and how alive the planet is. And I mean that in both how lived in the cities feel and how literally the planet is alive. It's cool. The movie just looks really good from top to bottom. I love every second of seeing Cybertron and the many different unique places that our characters travel to. And the movie does a pretty good job at showcasing some of that vista and scale. Speaking of story and character, what are we really dealing with here? Well, Transformers 1 is a prequel story that tells the friendship and later rivalry of Orion Pax and D-16, who we would later know better as Optimus Prime and Megatron. And honestly, I thought the story was pretty good. I don't think it's gonna make you cry or anything, but once you feel how close and attached Orion and D-16 were, you start to feel sorry for the both of them when they slowly start to drift apart. And I do think the story gets better and better, especially once we hit the third act, because the story, just like the characters, kind of grow more and more mature. And I'm talking thematically here, without spoiling much, but I was kind of surprised with how things turned out. Not that I didn't see it coming, but it was more of a, oh, we're dealing with real issues now, and that's way too mature for kids to understand. And I respect the movie for it. The growing maturity of the film is mostly reflected on Orion and D, from their characteristic to their mannerism, and of course, their voice. Now personally, I needed time to adjust to Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry as both Optimus and Megatron, but I kinda like what they were going for, because we're not really following Optimus Prime and Megatron here. We're following Orion Pax and D-16. Seeing these two characters act, how do I describe it? Normally. They act normally. Seeing how these two characters act normally, acting friendly to each other, joking around here and there, the movie is clearly painting them as these young boys who are best friends who don't really know the reality of the world. And seeing the two change from regular Transformers to the leaders of the Autobots and Decepticons, you see that change in their voice. Orion Pax by the end sounded more like a young Optimus Prime with his speeches and all, and D16 started to sound more like Megatron, and I was like, yeah, these are the characters that I know. And speaking of maturity, the movie's violent. Like, we're seeing just straight up dismemberment. I mean, it's not like the first time we see Transformers getting their bodies mutilated and pieces flying everywhere, but I thought they were gonna tone it down for this movie because, you know, it's a kids movie and all. But no, they went all in. Like, I shit you not, a character gets torn in half, and the other Transformers start cheering for it like it's the French Revolution. Like, what? Yeah, that was kind of surprising for me. I was genuinely not expecting the movie to go that far because, yeah, this movie is not playing around in certain aspects, like I mentioned, and once again, I respect it. Orion and D16 is clearly the heart and soul of the film. The whole narrative hinges on these two and their clashing ideologies and how the two of them solve a problem they both want to fix. I think if you've never watched a Transformers movie before, this would be a fine first entry for you to get into, but if you're someone who already knows a thing or two about the series or its characters, then this movie, in my opinion, absolutely added depth and nuance to these two characters. And the whole of Cybertron, I would say, especially the two sides of what most of us would usually perceive as black and white. Though I will say the dialogue can sometimes be a little too on the nose. Like, for example, a character is talking to Orion and they're like, "It's your optimism that makes you who you are." And I'm like, okay, I get it, he's gonna be Optimus. And there's more of that in the movie. Nothing terrible or anything, but like, come on, really? But overall, yeah, I really like Transformers 1. It surprised me in many ways. I think the film looks beautiful, and the conflict between our two main characters was well realized towards the end. Some of the side characters are exactly that, side characters, Bumblebee and Elita 1, for example, while they tag along throughout the journey. This is really Optimus and Megatron's story, you know, and I'm glad they focus more on it because it is what makes this movie work. Also, the action sequences in this movie is phenomenal. It's fantastic, like just really well-directed action sequences. I don't think Transformers 1 is the kind of movie to win any prestigious award, but it is a lot of fun. If you love Transformers, you'll probably like this too. And if you have seen it, let me know in the comments what you think about it. Thank you all so much for watching, take care, and have a nice day.